We're going to talk about crime in America's cities. Liz Collin is always fun to talk to about that. She'll join us. John Carney is here. He sat down with Scott Bessent. All that, Chef Gruel, and more coming up on I'm Right. You ever been to Japan? I went to Japan. I was in the Marine Corps. It wasn't, believe me, it wasn't a fancy trip. We were over there doing a 6-month deployment training, things like that. And at some point in time, we had to go do some training up in Mount Fuji, which is reasonably close to Tokyo. Not right next door, but reasonably close. We would have to take a train from Mount Fuji to Tokyo whenever we had a day off or 2 days off. We were a bunch of young Marines. We want to go see the sights, maybe have a beer or two, talk to a local lady. So we would hop on a train. And this is long before I was even into politics. But we would get on these trains, long train ride. And I've been on public transit multiple times in my life by that point, buses and trains, like most people have. We would discuss back then amongst ourselves how clean everything was, how safe it felt, how polite, well-mannered. People would get up and let old women sit down if they needed a place to sit. We're young Marines. We're not focused on cultural issues or politics, but it was so noticeable that we discussed it. And then we would get to Tokyo, one of the biggest cities in the world. It might be the biggest city. I haven't looked. One of the biggest cities in the world, Tokyo. Huge city. And again, we're Marines from all different walks of life, city boys, country boys, but we'd been around the block a couple times. The city itself was immaculate. And I'm just having a hard time actually conveying, you were out at night, and it's not that we were ever super fearful, big group of Marines, but you'd be out at night with a buddy. This is a huge city, and you could go anywhere, and you never felt like, that guy, we should probably give him a wide berth. You never smelled pee. It was just nice, clean. Why? Well, they've made a choice, you see. It's a choice. All the scumbag communists in the United States of America who've turned our cities into rotten hellholes that will only get worse, they're desperate for you to not know that. It's a choice. There are cities all across the world that are lovely and safe. Zagreb, Croatia. I've never been there. I just had a buddy tell me about it though. His wife would go out at night. Just go take a walk. They were walking the dog. Go out at night. No fear. Nobody's suspicious. Just clean streets. No pee, no trash. Clean. Why? They've made a choice. Here in the United States of America, we continue to wake up day after day after day to these stories of some innocent American, usually a woman, who has been ravaged by some barbarian in and out of prison 8,000 times. And then the politicians will make every excuse in the world and we'll be outraged. But it's really, really, really important to understand that America's cities are disgusting, smelly, violent, and dangerous by choice. It's a very simple choice. The story most recently, of course, 26-year-old woman, Bethany McGee is her name, sits on a train car in Chicago. 26-year-old woman, young lady. 50-year-old black dude with 72 prior arrests. Dumps gasoline all over her and lights her on fire. Over 60% of her body burned. She'll live, but you and I both know she'll never be the same. She'll never look the same. This is not some one-off story. It's happened time after time after time. Remember Irina Zarutska, of course, Charlotte, North Carolina. Young lady, just a kid, gets off work. Some barbarian sits behind her, sees her white skin, pulls out his knife, and murders her right there on camera. We all watched it. But it's not just that. That barbarian had been arrested 8,000 times, continued to be set free. We could do 8 hours on these stories. Remember the story of Logan Federico? Remember this?
Dead. Gone. Why? Because Alexander Devontae Dickey, who was arrested 39 times, 25 felonies, was on the street. How about that? How good are we doing for our family? How good are you doing for your kids? He should have been in jail for over 140 years for all the crimes he committed. You know how much time he spent in prison? A little over 600 days in 10 years. He's only 30 years old. He was committing 2.65 crimes a year since he was 15 years old, but nobody could figure out that he couldn't be rehabilitated. Well, you'd have to put him in prison to see if he could be rehabilitated. Isn't that the idea of prison? But no, my daughter wanted to be a teacher. She finally figured it out 2 weeks before she was executed.
She was pulled out of her bed by that animal, begged for her life, shot in the head. The judge, back to the Bethany McGee case, the young lady set on fire in Chicago, of course, is asked why she would turn the animal loose again, said, and I quote, "I understand your position, but I can't keep everyone in jail." Brandon Johnson, mayor of Chicago, made a little statement about it. Here it was.
We cannot incarcerate our way out of violence. We've already tried that, and we've ended up with the largest prison population in the world without solving the problems of crime and violence. The addiction on jails and incarceration in this country, we have moved past that. It is racist, it is immoral, it is unholy, and it is not the way to drive violence down.
But of course, these are all lies to cover up the real reason. It's racist, that's a lie. We can't jail everyone, that's a lie. We have too many people in prison, that's a lie. These are all lies. You see, we most definitely can incarcerate our way out of violence because countries have done it all over the planet. Why do you think Tokyo is so safe? You do things bad in Tokyo, you're going bye-bye, son. See you later. El Salvador reduced its murder rate by 98%. Do you know what percentage of the population they had to arrest and imprison in order to reduce the murder rate by that much? 1.6%. That's it. And here in America, it's not as if we have a country that's loaded with animals. It's just a small percentage of subhuman demons. Violent, demonic, raised, violent, committed to violence. They'll be violent their entire lives like rabid wolverines. It's not millions and millions. It's a small little percentage, and it would be easy to stop all these things. Women being burned alive, raped, murdered. It would be easy. But that would require a choice. Which, of course, begs the question, if the communist isn't genuinely worried about racism, or the prison population or anything like that, why does he continue to do this? Why does he continue to find the animal? And he's wearing a judge's robes, or more often than not, she's wearing a judge's robes, and she turns the animal free. Does she feel like that person's going to reform? No, come on. Does she feel like it would be racist to arrest that person? No, come on. That judge is a communist. The communist wants you raped, wants you murdered, because rape and murder and thievery creates fear in people, creates angst. And whenever there is this kind of discontent, this fear in society, the communist knows it aids him in his quest for power. The truth is, So many Americans will actually buy into the lies of, oh, well, Democrats are just naive. Well, they think it's racist. Oh, we don't want to look racist. So many people will believe the excuses they give instead of accepting the very, very brutal truth that we are surrounded by demonic communists. They've taken incredibly important positions of power in our society, and they've made a choice to have your daughter raped in the city because they believe it helps the revolution move forward. Now, when you accept that, then you can finally tackle the problem and understand it for what it is. See this woman running for Congress in Nashville? She might win, by the way.
Representative, in 2020, you made some tweets that have since been deleted that were very critical of police. You said in those since deleted tweets that the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department should be dissolved. Another cheered on a teachers union saying that defund the police should be a requirement for schools reopening. And another saying good morning, especially to the 54% of Americans that believe burning down a police station is justified. 2020 was obviously a very fraught year. Do you still stand by those comments? And if not, is there anything you want to clarify?
I'm not going to engage in cable news talking points, but what I will say is that our communities need solutions. We need local people deciding, solving local problems with local solutions. And that's not the overreach of a federal government or state government of which we are dealing with in Nashville and our cities across the state of Tennessee.
So you don't want to clarify whether you still believe that the police should be defunded?
Once again, I don't remember these tweets, but what I'm saying is that
I'm not asking you if you remember. What is your position today? How's that on this issue?
I mean, I'm here to talk about my race, which is in literally 9 days.
I know, she's blonde, almost a little pretty. It's hard. It's hard. Even though you disagree and dislike her, it's hard to look at that young lady and think to yourself, she wants me shot in the head. She would actually privately celebrate if my daughter was raped. It's hard to accept that, isn't it, when you look at her? Just a young lady. But you don't understand how truly demonic and violent the communist is. You do not understand why he does things he does. When these communists defund the police department and install a judge that will allow another animal onto the streets, they don't do so with naivete. When that guy inevitably kills, robs, rapes someone else, they don't sit back and go, oh, dang, I thought he'd turned his life around. They're well aware of what he's going to do again. They want it to happen. These people are not accidentally stumbling into it. And as I've told you so many times before, they're not soft on crime. Please never use that ridiculous term. They are pro-murder. They are pro-rape. And as of now, they control every major American city. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I am right. We will march forward. We'll talk to Liz Collin about this. She has a unique level of knowledge about this because she lives in one of the worst places now for this kind of stuff, Minneapolis. Before we talk to Liz, probably a really good time to make sure we got our T levels up, right? How's your testosterone? Are you low energy all the time, fellas? How's your mood? Let me ask you, do you, when you're sitting around the house, driving home, maybe at work, just all of a sudden get down? Not really a reason for it. You're just kind of down. America's T levels are in free fall right now. Free fall. We have lost over 50% of our testosterone in 50 years. It's because we are drinking estrogen. It's a disaster. You want to turn it around? Naturally, don't stick a needle in your arm. Naturally, Chalk has natural herbal supplements that'll change your life. Male Vitality Stack from Chalk will change your life. Go take advantage of their Black Friday specials. Chalk.com/JesseTV. We'll be back.
Somalis are not terrorizing this nation. We are helping it thrive. Somalis have always seen themselves as a fabric of this nation. So not only are we not going anywhere, Not only are we not going anywhere, we are not going to allow anybody to make us feel less Minnesotan or less American.
Wow, things are going well up there. Joining me now, Liz Collin, senior reporter, Alpha News. Liz, I don't even know where to begin on the Somali-based scandals that are going on in your backyard, so maybe I should actually hand it to the reporter. What is happening up there?
Yeah, so much has made national news now, but federal prosecutors, Jesse, have estimated now that there has been multi-billions of dollars in fraud in Minnesota. Just to catch your audience up to speed, we've had 78 defendants now been sentenced in just the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme alone. This was the largest COVID fraud scheme in the country, overwhelmingly perpetuated in the Somali community. And those co-defendants stole more than $47 million in funds, claiming to serve 18 million meals to kids at more than 30 food distribution sites across Minnesota. The math never added up. We know a lot of that money went overseas. It'll never be recovered. You have fraud at autism centers, adult daycares, medical transportation companies. An entire program was recently shut down by the state of Minnesota. It was supposed to help people find housing. It had to be shut down after it was riddled with fraud. And over at Alpha News, we've checked out many of the tips that we've received, people alleging these fake businesses, phantom billing. I've seen for myself the empty parking lots, empty businesses. And then you can just check a quick online search to state records will show just how many millions of dollars these what look to be fake businesses are receiving. I can tell you that taxpayers are very frustrated. We've seen this for ourselves. In fact, one business that we recently profiled actually set up a surveillance camera themselves to just say, here, there's never any cars coming and going. This autism center is getting $2 million from taxpayers. We've had people calling on Governor Tim Walz to resign in the wake of all of this. He is currently still running for his third term, Jesse, here in Minnesota.
Okay, before we get to Tim Walz, Liz, I'm sorry, I know it's probably off the subject. I need to rewind for a second. Adult daycares? What's an adult daycare?
You know, it's funny. That's what federal prosecutors have asked again and again. They've never even heard of this type of business, but these have exploded in Minnesota. We've checked some out many times. Often there's nobody there, or I've actually gone into some. There's been people, just a few people sitting on a couch, and yet online they'll be advertising all these great activities that they take these older adults to. That doesn't seem to be happening into the stories that we've looked at, but certainly a lot of questions. It seems that there should be some safeguards put up on the front end rather than looking for this money after it's long gone.
Adult daycares. Gosh, I'm really old. Okay, so back to Tim Walz. Do you get the impression, because you're the one who digs into this stuff, that Minnesota and the political apparatus there look the other way for all this endless Somali fraud, or worse, helped in it? What's your impression on how the government is involved in this?
It's a good question. Republican legislators have recently been more questioning that, I think, publicly. Why have you allowed this for so long? Especially now with this explosion of all of these frauds, it seems almost at the same time. And again, we're talking about billions of dollars that have been built from taxpayers at this point. We have the Attorney General of Minnesota, Keith Ellison, who has been very quiet when it comes to fraud in Minnesota. Instead, it's been federal prosecutors taking these cases on. And then, this, I think, made national news just recently with President Trump announcing he's going to terminate temporary protected status, that TPS for Somali immigrants specifically. That's a little bit more than 400 people. It's estimated in Minnesota. We are the home to the largest Somali population in the country, anywhere between 80 and 100,000. But we have documented this before, that the money in many cases has gone overseas. Kenya, Somalia. My sources have said that many have figured out how to do this. They go ahead and they'll serve a 5 to 10 year prison term for this fraud. And we know that some of this real estate has been bought in other parts of the world, and they'll serve their time, and it's sort of set up for them upon their release. So there's been calls to hey, do we need tougher sentences when it comes to this fraud? It's so pervasive.
Good grief. All right, Liz, let's shift gears here. Derek Chauvin might be, this is my opinion, not yours, the most legally crapped on human being in the United States of America in the last decade. And now I know his lawyers are saying, hey, can we get this guy out of jail? What's happening with all this?
Yeah, Jesse, also something that has taken place on Governor Tim Walz's watch. We talk about fraud, but fraud to me also involves lies, certainly a lot of them told in this case. But we have the latest developments with Derek Chauvin's case, this new court filing in support of a post-conviction relief for Derek Chauvin. It's a 71-page petition filed in Hennepin County Court last week, now alleging prosecutorial misconduct. It's basically Chauvin's last line of defense. You have his attorney stating that this case never made sense. Very few murders, he says, take place before a crowd of witnesses, especially while officers are working with dispatchers and requesting an ambulance and emergency response, right, all at the same time. There's also quite a bit in this questioning the video evidence, how these so-called expert witnesses could actually even testify at all to the cause of death of George Floyd. The only person to ever conduct an autopsy on George Floyd was Dr. Andrew Baker. Instead, he's called fifth in line to testify. And he talks about how there's no asphyxiation at all that George Floyd suffered from. And in fact, his findings are cardiopulmonary arrest, that George Floyd, in fact, died of a heart attack. And you now have 50 police officers, former and current Minneapolis police officers, that have come forward in this filing to say that Derek Chauvin was trained in the maximal restraint technique. They were all trained in MRT. And that is, in fact, what he was doing on May 25th, 2020. So you have a lot of these questionable people who've been called and testified, and many people have said that they actually committed perjury in Derek Chauvin's case. So all of that wrapped up into this 71-page filing last week to either vacate Chauvin's conviction or grant him a new trial. All right,
before I let you go, I just want to nail down on this point. We have these 50 officers, current and former, saying he was trained in this. Well, this is information that I know you had talked about back when it mattered, before Derek Chauvin went to prison. So, not insulting them or anyone else involved, because I don't know the details, where were these 50 guys back when Derek Chauvin was on trial?
Well, what's interesting is the judge did not allow MRT, the maximal restraint technique, to be discussed at trial at all. They said that Derek Chauvin he didn't sign his name in the last time it was trained during MPD, training. But I think it only adds to the spotlight on the judge in this case, Judge Peter Cahill, who has since retired. But there were many questionable rulings that he made. I've always said in the case, Jesse, it's more about what the jury was not allowed to see in Derek Chauvin's case, rather than what they were.
Liz, happy Thanksgiving to you. Appreciate it. All right, the economy. Are we going to get some relief buying things? How's inflation going to go next year? We'll talk to John Carney. He sat down with Scott Bessent. We'll talk to him about that. But I don't want you to stress about it. I want you to get a good night's sleep, all right? Now, I know that can be tough with the stresses and strains of life. I know we got Thanksgiving tomorrow. Is everything ready? Well, you're still going to sleep. You're still going to sleep well. You still have your dream powder from Beam, right? Get one bag of dream powder from Beam, and you'll always have one in my house. We always have one in the house. It's hot chocolate. It's just a bag of hot chocolate. Warm up a little glass of milk in the nuker. Dump scoop in there. Stir it in. Now you just sip on a delicious cup of hot chocolate before bed, but it has all these wonderful natural things in it. Not drugs, 100% drug-free, just natural things that'll just knock you out. And then when you wake up in the morning, you feel refreshed, not like you have that drug-induced hangover. Try a bag at shopbeam.com/Jesse Kelly. We'll be back.
March of 24, I wrote something for Fox Digital, and everyone go back and pull it up, March 12th, and it was called How the Three I's Are Eviscerating Working Americans. So what were the three I's? Immigration, interest rates, and inflation. Borders closed, promise made, promise kept. 10-year was 508. I think it's at 4 now, and mortgage rates key off of that. I think short-term interest rates could come down more, so interest rates down, and now we're at inflation. And inflation is coming down. I am very confident over the coming 12 months, we are going to see the third eye bite the dust, and inflation's going to come down.
Okay. Well, that's music to my friggin' ears. Let's see what John has to say about it. Joining me now, John Carney, economics editor at Breitbart News. All right, John, inflation coming down. Every single American watching right now just sat up in their chair and said, really? Is it gonna?
It is coming down. Actually, some good news. The American Farm Bureau said the price of a Thanksgiving meal is down about 5% from last year. So this is, they put together all the ingredients: cranberry sauce, baked potato, mashed potatoes, turkey, of course, and they do this calculation, and it's come down. Inflation is down a lot from where it was under Joe Biden, and it's going to keep coming down by all indications through next year. It's going to take a while before we get to 2%, which is the Fed's official target. But we're moving in that direction, so good news. And I think Besson's right on that. I think we will see within the next 6 months material progress on inflation.
All right, John, which of course begs the question. So if we get inflation down to 2%, that does not return me, a normal American, to what I was paying before we decided to shut down the country for a bad chest cold. Is that over? Is that country simply gone because we shut it down? I mean, you can level with me. Is it over? Is that gone?
No, I don't think it is. I think the key, we're not going to bring prices to where they should be. That inflation, unfortunately, is baked in the cake where we can't get rid of it. But what we can do is grow wages. So that's the other half of what I'll call like the Besson-Trump plan, is to grow wages faster than the rate of inflation so that wages catch up, so that things no longer feel as expensive as they are now. A huge part of the problem is prices went up and our wages went up much more slowly. So things really did become unaffordable, and they still are in many cases far less affordable than they were before the pandemic. But if we can grow wages fast enough, we will catch up. It'll still feel bad. Guys like you and I will still look at the price of a hamburger and be like, I can't believe that's what they're going to charge me for a hamburger. But wages will catch up and people will start to feel a little better about it because their money will go further.
Well, that's music to my ears. Break down for me, if you don't mind, John, why? Why are wages going to go up? What's happening right now that's going to put more money in my pocket?
Sure, a couple things. One, we're having an investment boom in America. We just got durable goods orders in this week. I mean, it's backdated to September because the Democrats shut down the government. But they showed a huge leap in business investment for the second month in a row. It grew 0.9% in August and 0.9% in September. That kind of investment in business actually will create a lot of demand for labor. The other half of it is we've closed the border. That's one of the things Besson was talking about in his 3 I's. That puts upward pressure on American wages. And what we're seeing is a lot more jobs are being filled by Americans rather than foreigners now. That will help bring wages up as well. And I think we're going to start to see the fruits of the deregulation and the tariffs, frankly, moving production back on shore. That will also put upward pressure on wages. So I think we're going to catch up faster than most economists think. They think, well, it'll take years and years. But one of the things I've learned in watching the Trump administration over the years is they always underestimate how quickly the economy can recover when you have good governance.
John, zooming out from us, because sadly we are affected by the rest of the world, what's the global economic situation now? Because it wasn't just the United States of America that's had some rocky times in the past few years. That's been fairly universal Are other places getting their feet under them? Are we starting to get back to normal or not?
No. So there's a lot of economic problems still going on around the world. China has a really precarious economic situation. They are trying to their economy was, for the last few years, was really based on a property bubble where, something close to what we went through in the United States, where you had a real estate bubble. It's not based on mortgages as much. There's a lot of mortgages, but it's a property bubble. They were trying to replace that growth with export growth. The problem is they've run into Donald Trump, and the U.S. is no longer open to Chinese dumping of exports. So that's a big problem for China. Europe has a problem as well. They're having to rebalance their economy. Their economy really did depend very much on an uneven playing field between the U.S. and Europe. So Europe is trying to rebalance. They're going to grow slow. That's actually, it will be a drag on the U.S. We want our allies to be rich and wealthy and to do well, but it's going to take some time. That means their appetite for U.S. products will be lower, which will slow our growth a bit. But what we're going to see over the next couple of years is the U.S. is probably going to grow at a much healthier rate than Europe. And we might, China will, who knows how fast China really grows. The numbers are all, I don't trust a bit of them, but China's going to really struggle because they can't switch from real estate to export like they had planned because we put tariffs on them.
Are we going to have a new Fed chair? There are all these rumors, but you're the one who always knows this stuff. Are we going to have a new Fed chair? If so, why? And what's the new guy going to do?
So yes, we will have a new Fed chair no matter what. Jerome Powell's term ends in April. Donald Trump is very close to naming someone. Alex Marlowe and I interviewed Scott Bessent. He made it clear that they are getting very close to, they've been interviewing candidates. It's most likely either going to be Kevin Hassett, who is Donald Trump's chief economic advisor in the White House, the national economics director right now, Kevin Warsh, who used to be on the Fed, and then Christopher Waller, who is currently a Fed governor, but he dissented once when the Fed didn't cut. He's probably going to vote for another rate cut in the December meeting. He's also a strong candidate. I think he actually has a stronger chance than people are giving him odds for. Those are probably the three leading candidates. Of course, look, it's Donald Trump. He, often plays his cards pretty close to his vest on these things. Nobody really knows until he makes the decision who it's going to be. So I don't think even, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent knows who it will be right now. We'll have to wait to see what Donald Trump says. He probably wants to say something, though, before Christmas, is what I'm hearing.
Well, how about that? We'll take that. John, you have a happy Thanksgiving, my friend. I appreciate you. Know what I'm bringing for Thanksgiving? Massa chips. Now, don't yell at me. Bob is bringing some kind of baked good. I think she's doing cobbler or something. But I'm doing a little dip, little massa chips. Time to introduce the whole neighborhood to the glory of massa chips. Don't roll your eyes at me either. They're freaking glorious. They're absolutely glorious. You see, I love chips, as you know. I've been eating chips my entire life. When I was a kid, I used to beg my mom, can I have 5 more Doritos? But chips are terrible for you. At least the stuff you buy in the grocery store. They're terrible for you. You know how many ingredients massa chips has? 3. 3 ingredients. It's just tallow, salt, corn. They're delicious. Multiple flavors. And there's a reason you don't feel all bloated and gross when you're done. You just get to eat a good chip without feeling bad about yourself. You want to save a bunch of money? massachips.com/JesseTV. We'll be back. Okay, Thanksgiving is upon us. You didn't think I was just going to ignore that the entire time. So I know maybe you're stressing right now. What if I screw everything up tomorrow? That's why we need the chef in here to educate us on all things Thanksgiving. Joining me now, my friend Chef Andrew Gruel, owner of the Calico Fish House. Okay, Chef, as you well know, I am not a turkey man. I don't eat dried out meat, but I know you know how to cook it, and many people watching are going to be making it tomorrow, so I will give the floor to you. Help these disgusting turkey lovers make the perfect bird tomorrow.
I will say I'm with you on the turkey, by the way. The best way to cook a turkey is to braise a pork butt. That is the best way to do it right now. So two things if you're going to cook the turkey, you got to spatchcock the turkey. I repeat, spatchcock the turkey. That's where you cut. Bingo, there it is. How'd you guys find that? My gosh, you're like internet sleuths. You split it down the center, you push it down. You're going to get the best breasts that way because they're going to cook at the same time as the legs. If you think about it, right, the heat comes from the outside in. So when your legs go up to 160 degrees, your breast is only at like 100, 150, 155. They cook evenly. Salt your bird. You got to salt it now. Right now's the time. After you watch this clip, or actually after everybody listens to the entirety of your show, go take that bird, throw it on a sheet pan, salt the hell out of it, throw it in a refrigerator, uncovered, because you want it to get dried out on the exterior so you get a better, crispier exterior. And then that salt's going to work in and out of the bird. It's going to basically help the bird retain moisture. But the other piece is go get a pork butt, go get a chuck roll, go get any one of those big fat cuts of meat that you braise, that you throw in the crock pot or you throw on the back of the stove and braise for hours, because the juice from that's going to actually make a better gravy, so you can add it to your gravy. In addition, having that like meltingly tender, collagen-rich braised meat to mix into all the other horrible Thanksgiving sides is going to take things from like a 5 to a 7.
All right, we're going to get to the sides in a moment because I wanted to talk to you about that. Where do you stand, Chef, on the injecting the turkey, the butter? I have a friend who just slabs butter under the skin and mixes all kind of things in it. As I said, this is not my area, but it's very much yours. Help people out here.
Injecting a turkey does nothing because the moisture just comes right out when you cut into it. So imagine it's just like sitting there in this water pocket, and then you cut it and then it just runs right out. You might as well just pour stock on your bird as you're eating it. It's a better way to do it. And then putting butter doesn't do anything because all of that fat actually melts off the bird and just goes into the bottom of your pan, so you're wasting money. I'm telling you, the only thing that works is pre-salting your bird. Salt is the only chemical that can go inside the bird and outside the bird. Marinades don't go in the bird because the fat isn't penetrable. Flavonoids, which is the chemical version of all those spices, those don't go in the bird. They only flavor the outside of the bird. So you can rub it down with the spices and the herbs, but the fat isn't going to do anything but run off the bird.
All right. Now, sides. Everybody knows you have the green bean casserole, and there are good sides. I admit that. Where are you at on Thanksgiving sides? Help people out who are scrambling tonight. They have to bring a side tomorrow. They're figuring out the stuffing. What do?
Well, the sides are always the secondary thought, right? So people make them the day before and then they throw them in the oven before they eat them, so they're dried out, they're overcooked. The key with sides is that if you are making them today, undercook it a little bit, understanding that you're going to need to bring it up to temp. Make sure you got fat in there, right? So bacon, butter, cream sauces. I love bacon and caramelized onions in absolutely everything. And then before you reheat it the next day, throw your stock in there to make sure that you moisten it up again. I keep saying moist and spatchcock. This is getting weird. But also on the sides, cheese, a lot of Parmesan, right? Parmesan is umami. So you want to top it with that fresh Parmesan either at the end or before you rebake it to get a little bit of that melt factor on there. The other piece of this on the sides is that make sure that you're seasoning it heavily throughout. And if you put interior garnish in there, like ham or braised meats or bacon, which I think you should, make sure it's like a 1-to-1 ratio, because nobody likes searching around the string beans for one little piece of bacon or one crispy onion. So it's all about that interior garnish ratio. It needs to be 1-to-1, not 500-to-1.
Chef, everyone knows I'm a sauce man. You are not only a sauce man, the Calico Fish House has just mouth-watering sauces. But I'm not at the Calico Fish House tomorrow. I'm at my neighbor's house, and I've got what I've got. Maybe I can stop by the store. Is there a money sauce I can whip up really quick that an idiot like me can do really quick that's going to bring something to life if I just start dipping stuff in it?
Yeah, I love it. Brown butter, right? So just take a whole stick of butter and actually throw it in a pan and toast it until it starts to smell nutty and it gets kind of golden brown. Pull it off the heat, throw a handful of fresh herbs in there and a squeeze of lemon and mix it up. And actually, because of those toasted milk solids, you get this incredibly rich, fatty sauce. The herbs will blend into it, and some of the seasoning, that acid will make the flavor pop. And it actually, the fat will bring out the flavor in all the foods you're eating, but those toasted milk solids are nutty. That's why they call it beurre noisette, which in French is basically toasted butter or toasted nuts. Toasted nuts. Smack you in the old beurre noisette.
How about that? All right, Chef, Thanksgiving's expensive. I know everyone's touting how much more affordable it is right now, but just food in general, in all seriousness, is very expensive. We got people paying $10 a pound for burger across the country. Is there price relief on the horizon for the consumer? That includes, obviously, restaurateurs like you who don't want to have to charge people $25 for a cheeseburger. Is there relief coming?
Yeah, there is relief coming for a couple reasons. Number one, a lot of this is speculation is what's driving up the prices. That's the crazy thing is that supply hasn't changed on the beef side. Inventory hasn't changed. But over a month, prices are going up $600 a head on the cattle just because of the mere speculation as like what's happening with the stock market. So I think as supply increases, which is projected to do so, you're going to see prices come down on the wholesale side of things. Number one, after the holidays, you also see prices come down. Generally speaking, what's driving a lot of these prices up in places like California, they're taking a national average. So it's all these blue states where they've got transportation costs through the roof, which are getting passed down to the retailers. So if we can actually see some of those prices continue to come down on transportation, we'll see a wholesale drop. But I am confident from a macroeconomic perspective, although I'm just a cook, that prices are going to come down, especially in the first quarter of 2026. So mark my words on this one.
Chef, you and your family have a happy Thanksgiving, my friend. Thank you for helping us again. Spatchcock the turkey. You know, and next time, I'm going to ask him how you do that, because he makes it sound so simple. Just take the spine out of it. I've never done that before. And when I've had to mess with that disgusting bird, I've had to, do the stuffing thing. Well, whatever. Anyway, Donald Trump's funny. He dealt with some turkeys yesterday. We'll lighten the mood. Next. All right, it's time to lighten the mood. And I'll tell you something. Trump is funny. He's one of those people. To be funny, to have a sense of humor, I'm pretty sure it's God-given. Either you have one or you don't. You can work on it, but the dude is just naturally funny. And of course, he was talking about pardoning turkeys. Here he was.
I want to make an important announcement because you remember last year, after a thorough and very rigorous investigation by Pam Bondi and all of the people at Department of Justice, the FBI, the CIA, the White House Counsel's Office, and the Department of Everything. We have a Department of Everything. You know what that is? I think that's called the White House. Into a terrible situation caused by a man named Sleepy Joe Biden. He used an auto pen last year for the turkey's pardon. So I have the official duty to determine, and I have determined that last year's turkey pardons are totally invalid, as are the pardons of about every other person that was pardoned other than, where's Hunter? No, Hunter's was good. That was the one pardon, Pam, that was good, right? The rest of them are all invalid. I don't know what the hell you're going to do about that, but now we're going to take a little of the joking. That is a mess. But they're hereby null and void. The turkeys known as Peach and Blossom last year have been located, and they were on their way to be processed, in other words, to be killed. But I have stopped that journey, and I am officially pardoning them, and they will not be served for Thanksgiving dinner. The turkeys being pardoned today go by the names of Gobble and Waddle. When I first saw their pictures, I thought we should send them, I shouldn't say this. I was going to call them Chuck and Nancy. But then I realized I wouldn't be pardoning them. I would never pardon those two people.
Dude is funny, man. You enjoy time with family tomorrow. Remember what you're thankful for. I'll see you.